Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar on foot protection, all too often neglected. My name is Karina Boisjoli, Marketing Advisor for SPI Health and Safety, and I'll be your host. Today, I'm very happy to introduce my guest expert in foot protection, Mr. Patrick Leblanc, Director of Business Solutions for Hawaii. Before we start, I wish to inform you that if you have any questions during the webinar, you can write them at any time in the question box located at the right hand of your screen. We'll answer all the questions during the question period at the end of the presentation. Now, without any further delay, I leave the floor to you, Patrick.
Thanks, Karina. And welcome, everybody. Thanks for taking the time. I'm just going to run over the agenda that we're going to talk about today. A little overview of who we are at Hawaii, the risks of poor foot protection, the essential components of a safety boot, the certifications and the different elements of technology that we have that we can present, the work environment, risk assessments, and how to select the proper safety boot, and when to change the safety boot. And again, there'll be a question and answer period at the end, but feel free to put in your questions in the chat box. Who we are. We're a safety footwear specialist since 1934. 100% Canadian company. There's a few of us left. We have three different categories of footwear that we manufacture. We have some that are 100% made in Canada. We have some products that we import, and we also have a large portion of what we do is assembled in Canada. The product mix offers us the ability to keep 130 people in Canada employed, and business, knock on wood, is going well and growing. So the model is accepted in many areas. We're a proud partner of the Canadian Armed Forces. We make their military boot for land operating forces it was in the Middle East and Afghanistan and any desert climate. And some of that technology has trickled into some of our other series. We're sold in more than 17 countries. You'll see that we have some highly specialized products, for example, aluminum smelters or the mining industry, and this translates very well where people are consider safety prime importance and where there's safety risks involved. We have our own in-house CSA certified lab. We're the only footwear manufacturer in Canada with this lab. This enables us to test products quickly. Our innovation team can work on different concepts, test them in-house, and move products and improve them as we go. Also, if there's some specific applications that you have in your industries, we can work with you through SPI to develop some new characteristics on the boots. We have Expand technology, which is a dual density rubber injection to the soles, which is unique in North America. We have an innovation center which is based in Sherbrooke, Quebec. 100% of our innovation is done in Canada. We have 6 people working in that particular department, and we're very proud of that we design all the boots in Canada, and we're able to export that technology elsewhere. So some of the risks for poor foot protection, injuries caused by impact, you see in different industries. If you're in heavy metals, if you're dealing with welding, if you're dealing with liquid metals, there's a huge danger. In terms of the perforations, obviously on construction sites it becomes very obvious there are nails and other things on the ground, but there are other things. If you do work in a metal shop, you'll see scraps of metal hanging off pallets, and those can rip boots. You have to have the proper foot protection, because otherwise, instead of ripping the boot, it's going to rip the feet. Burns, again, through chemicals, through molten metal, through sparks from welding. So it's important to be concerned with that. Slips and falls, that can be anything from wet tiles to wet metal to ice. Some employees work inside, outside. Back injuries, not having the proper foot protection long-term can cause back injuries, the lack of support. Exhaustion, if you don't have the right fitting shoes and you're on your feet all day, by the end of the day, it's a long day. You want to make sure that works. The inadequate fit, we also see some people that the boots aren't tied up properly. They actually wear a size 10 but like to wear a size 12, so it's comfortable. That's not right. That actually increases the risk factors. Unsuitable protection. It's important to consider what someone does if they're climbing on ladders, steps, or they're in confined spaces. You have to have the right protection just to make sure you're not causing any other injuries.
We have an interactive question for the people that are online with us today. So the question is, at your workplace, is the choice of boots or safety shoes made by the employee or the employer? So A is the employee and B, the employer. You have a few seconds to answer. A few more seconds. And here are the results. So we have 60% that said the employee and 40% the employer. What do you think about that, Patrick?
It's a little surprising and somewhat disconcerting when you hear it. For one thing, the employer, should there be any accidents or injuries, the cost of that is incumbent on the employer. So if you're going to get the cost, you should be involved and take care that the employees are wearing the proper foot protection. And also, not all employees know what the inherent risks of a job are. So if you're leaving that kind of into a vacuum, you're creating a situation which could become dangerous. So it would be important if the decision were more up to the employer versus the employee. The essential components of a safety boot. We'll start with the toe cap. Huayi offers three different types of toe caps. We have a metal, we have aluminum, or we have composite. Each have their advantages and disadvantages. If you're aware somewhere there's a lot of magnets or magnetic fields, aluminum becomes interesting. Composite is interesting for lightweight, and if you're going to work in cold, because it doesn't transfer any the cold. The second portion is the footbed. The footbed adds a lot of comfort, cushioning, breathability to the sole, so for the feet. So it's extremely important to have the proper footbed. Also, you'll see a lot of aftermarket insoles that you can use. Make sure if you do replace them for comfort reasons to have the same thickness, because if you don't replace with the same thickness at the end in the toe cap, if you're changing that thickness, you could it kind of voids the CSA or the safety factors of the boot if it's too tight. The puncture-resistant insole, we offer two different types of puncture-resistant insoles. We have metal or composite. The advantages of the composite, it covers 100% of the surface of the foot. However, some very sharp, very fine needles, nails are able to come through in certain instances. There are also metal insoles. The metal, obviously the nails or sharp objects don't come through. However, it covers about 85 to 90% of the foot. So both have trade-offs, also the weight factors and the cold factors that you have to consider. The shank is a portion of the shoe that offers more arch support and stability. This is, you'll see some boots on the market that the prices vary greatly. If you're going to lower your price, you have to lower the components of it, and removing a shank is something that is relatively easily done and difficult to see. We have shanks because we know it's part of it's an important part of the boot in terms of comfort and safety. The outsole, again, we had a number of different soles. We have a complete rubber. We have our dual density rubber injected. We have rubber PU injection. We have TPR. So depending on what application you have, what you want, we'll help you with SPI to go through the different options and see what the pros and cons are and how they best fit what you do. Another component is the metatarsal protection. So we offer two different types of metatarsal protection. The one seen here, the blue part is the external. There's also the same, very similar, but internal. So depending on, obviously, this is required in areas where you have a higher risk of larger objects, heavier objects falling on the top of the foot. If you don't have it and you're working in a mine and there's rocks involved, or if you're working in heavy metal areas where some large heavy object can fall. If it falls an inch or a few centimeters behind the cap, your foot gets to absorb all the weight, and we don't want that. So that's why this is in certain applications installed. Also, in terms of if you're going to be welding, if there's sparks and flames coming up, and this helps avoid them from getting inside the boot. If you do need the metatarsal protection, but you're climbing ladders or footstools, perhaps the internal Met guard becomes more interesting because it's less in the way if you're climbing ladders. The different certifications, excuse me, certifications and elements of technology. On the left side are the different certifications. At Voyer, we have many models that offer triple certification. So we have the ASTM for US, CE for the European community, and of course you all recognize the green triangle, CSA. If your employees go from one to the other, it becomes interesting to have this. Also, you'll have the SD for static dissipating. The omega sign is for the electric conductivity of it, and for metatarsal. So you'll have all different certifications. I'm sure the health and safety people in your company are well aware of these and what you require. And we actually have 781 different SKUs. So I'm sure there'll be something on that list that'll fit what you have. In addition to the certifications, there are different technologies. We're partners with Vibram, with Gore-Tex. Vibram manufactures soles for a number of different applications and companies. For both those companies, you have to become an authorized partner, which we are. We work with them to develop, to use their technology through new products. You'll be seeing the Vibram Arctic Grip sole, which was launched last year, and it's going to be we have access to it as of September. Gore-Tex is in many of our products. Arctic Grip I just talked about. Kevlar, other things. So we have, depending if you're in aluminum smelters, if you're in anywhere where there's welding, the Kevlar Kevlar stitching becomes important because it's more resistant to heat and fire. Interguard and Shield Tex are other technologies which we incorporate in our safety footwear. One of the big questions we always have is how do you assess the risks and how do you select the proper work boot? So some of the things you have to look at is a risk of hurting or falling, objects hurting you when they're falling on your feet. If you're working in food transformation, if you're going to drop a can of tomatoes on your foot, it's a little less significant than if it's a heavy I-beam, if you're working at Can-Am or some large companies that do that. So it's very important to assess the risk, how much weight, what's the likelihood, and what's the likely consequences. Sharp or pointed objects that can injure the foot. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. If you have metal, sheet metal on pallets, that's always something that's going to be to consider. Nails, anything else. Exposure to corrosive materials, depending on where you are, there's everywhere from oil and gas to metal treatments where they're using zinc and alloys and chromes. Even in certain food industries, they have to rinse the boots in different baths, which are very corrosive to boots. So we have the proper footwear. Slippery surfaces, that can be anything from ice, snow, to wet metal, to ceramic tiles. Again, we have a number of different soles available, from the Vibram Fire and Ice to our own X-Pan rubber technologies, and it just depends on what you need. Uneven surfaces or terrains can go from mines to outdoor work, to construction construction workers on roofs. Exposure to extreme temperatures. Our boots go from our basic outer to one that is waterproof to thinsulate to secondary booties. We have the range goes from basically going all the way down to minus 70 degrees in the extreme cold weather products that we have.
Here's our second interactive question. When should you replace your safety footwear? A, after a significant impact. B, when the outsole is worn. C, when the seams are torn or open. And D, all of the above. So still a few seconds to answer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we should have the results. So 100% of the people responded all of the above. I'm not too surprised, are you?
No, I'm not shocked either. Obviously, people that are working in the safety field and in industry, they know what the results are. A lot of people, though, down the line don't necessarily know, especially if you have a partial allocation for your boots. Sometimes they look fine, but it's important when the sole is damaged or worn. The wearing of the sole is when there's less than 2/30 seconds of the track left, and also if it's really unevenly worn. A lot of people you'll see they'll be walking and the heel is going to be worn uneven or on the outsides or on the insides, because that's the way their gait is, and that's what causes it. So it's important that when they get into slippery situations, they don't fall. If the sole has been punctured, if it has cracked for any reason, you have to change it. The leather is cut or deteriorated. Those are actual live shots. We haven't doctored those at all. We've seen a lot of stuff. So it's important. Again, I keep mentioning the side of the boot is torn because it's got a piece of metal or a piece of wood or something else on it. Well, if it had it once, if you get it again, and the next time it's going to get that cut is going to be your foot taking it, not the boot itself. When the seams are disconnected or open, the integrity of the boot is compromised at that point. So that's really important that the next time it takes a hit, especially if the toe cap is worn like that and it takes a hit, it can really come completely out and bring some of your toes with it. Also, if the cap has received a hit, a major impact, or the Met guard has received a major impact, it's also important to change it at that point. It's done its job. It's not good for a year. It's going to be good for a year and a half, depending on the standard use. But if it does get an exceptional hit to it, it's important to change it at that point also.
So we're now at the question period. So if you have any questions, you can write them down in the right-hand side of your screen. I have Robert, who has a question. What is the difference safety-wise between a 6-inch and an 8-inch boot?
There's not a significant difference between the 6-inch and the 8-inch. There's one thing that you have to verify, depending on which province you're in. Sometimes they will require 8-inch. Some will allow 6-inch. Also, there's a lot of different construction sites, work sites that mandate 8-inch. And for those of you who are in Quebec on the webinar, then you'll see that there's a lot more mandated 8-inch boots in the province of Quebec. So you have to see what the provincial laws are, if there's a mandate from your specific construction site, if it's been negotiated in a contract, also if it's the rules of the company. And you'll see in other areas, again, mostly in light manufacturing, warehousing, where they'll allow 6-inch, for example, in Quebec.
Mary is asking, how can I analyze risk and dangers in my work environment? Do you have any tools or checklists?
Well, the basic way to start is we're going to go back to here. We went over very quickly. If in your company you have some of these things, if there's a risk of things falling, impacts, sharp objects, you can go through your company and say, yeah, some of my workers are exposed to some of this. The next step would be to contact your representative from SPI, and jointly with Royer, we can do an internal quick audit and say, let's assess the risk, let's see how much risk there is, the frequency, the probabilities, and the impact, how severe the consequences could be. At that point, then we can suggest some footwear, the proper footwear for your employees and different sectors of your operations to use.
Okay. Martin wants to know what amount must the employer pay for their employees' safety boots?
There's no actual legislation on it. The closest thing we have is there was a jurisprudence from CP Rail a few years ago that mandated that through court, it was mandated that 33 1/3% of the safety boot had to be paid. They went around back and forth and came out with the safety component of a boot is about 1/3 of the cost of it. So that's one jurisprudence, but there's no real rule. What we see is, depending, if it's a very, very severe environment, like an aluminum smelter or a mine, usually those boots there are few companies that make them, and they're more expensive and more specialized, and also the company wants to make sure that they have the right footwear. So in those instances, the companies usually pay for the entirety of the boot. And as you go from there to light, warehousing or light manufacturing, then it becomes, we'll see companies pay between $100 and $150 a year for the employees to have the proper footwear, but there's no legislation.
That was very interesting, and unfortunately we don't have any more questions. So I'd like to thank you, Patrick, and a special thanks to our participants as well. I hope this webinar allowed you to learn more on foot protection, and I invite you to keep an eye open on your inbox. As soon as very soon we'll be sending you an email with some important information about the content of this webinar, as well as a replay link. And we have a question actually from Michelle. So the question is, do you have an industry best practice procedure for foot protection replacement program?
For the industry in general, or a specific industry?
I don't have that.
Well,
Okay, in general.
Yeah, in general, there's a guideline. What we have is basically a checklist of things that you can look for. And what we normally do is it's a little bit more in detail than the one that was up on the screen before. So yeah, that we can make that available. And however, that said, each industry has their own particularities. So it's important to not just go off the general one, but go in your specific industry if there's something that we can look at.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions before we go?
Again?
So I guess that we don't have any more questions. Thanks everyone again. And before you go, can you please respond to the appreciation survey that will appear on your screen in a few seconds? And that's it for today. So thanks again for listening, and have a great day.